In Artworld this week, the new dance craze from South America. Has it the staying power of the rumba, or is it a one-night wonder?
The chamber orchestra that manages without a conductor, because 52 ears are better than 2.
And the retrospective in England of one of the greatest 20th century French sculptors, Bourdelle, neglected in his own country.
And how long will it take for justice to prevail?
American opera star Simon Estes plays Martin Luther King in a controversial new musical which has just opened in London.
Not long, no lie can live forever.
The backstage drama of the £4 million production could make an opera in itself.
What you sow, how long, long, long.
The show has been riddled with personal and political drama, a far cry from the love, peace, freedom and racial harmony preached by Martin Luther King in his most memorable speech.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
Let's sing the praises of a preacher man.
The production was originally scheduled to open in April on the 22nd anniversary of King's assassination, but it was delayed by the departure of 3 librettists, 2 directors and 1 lyricist. And King's widow, Coretta, fearing her husband's story had been trivialized, withdrew support from the show. Her daughter Yolanda explains.
It was a script that was pretty much the brainchild of a writer who happened to be white. And I think we felt very strongly. I don't think any other people in the history of the world would let someone else tell about their experience. And for that to be perceived as racist, that's just reality. Nobody else quite knows your experience but you.
In an attempt to understand the American gospel tradition better, English opera composer Richard Blackford spent 18 months in Detroit and Atlanta studying music and attending King's Church.
If it takes a black man to write about a black man, how did Shakespeare write about Shylock the Jew when he was not Jewish? How did he write about the King of Denmark when he knew nothing of what went on in Denmark? How did Oscar Wilde write about heterosexual relationships when he was homosexual? How can any man write about women giving birth to children when they can never experience that? It's just a fallacious premise, I think.
But now I know there's another way. Reverend Martin, you have had your day. I'm beginning.
Just a few weeks before opening night, Blackford and the musical's Swiss producers elevated black American actor Clark Peters to the role of director. The King family is now back on side.
My father sung his sermons. So again, it makes sense to have Martin Luther King sing, and literally sing.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching.
It's my belief that when Coretta King comes over to see the musical, and I really believe that she will be very proud of what she sees, and she'll feel that it does a service to Martin Luther King.
A bunch of garden, and each one with a costume from October.
The rift between the show's producers and the King family now seems to be healed. Coretta King herself insisted on the inclusion of FBI allegations that her husband was a womanizer.
Some of the aspects that one might think that she would not want to have appear, or some of the moments that she felt were important, because they are the ones that are closest to people, that people know about. And if you skirt over them, it raises more questions than it answers.
Against all odds, and 2 weeks later than billed, King, the musical, finally opened in London, to be met by critical disdain. Critics have lambasted the production as being more a nightmare than a dream, saying that it's impossible to do justice to King's story in just 2.5 hours. But what is Yolanda King's verdict?
I do think the production is worth seeing, and will hopefully inspire people to leave there and read a book about Daddy, or listen to one of his speeches, or perhaps view a film or a documentary about him, to search those kinds of things out, that a few people will be inspired to do that.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Our God is marching on. Yes, our Lord is marching on. Yes, our God is marching on.
The work of French sculptor Antoine Bourdelle has often been neglected in his own country. Now, the French multinational chemical company Rhône Poulenc have sponsored a major retrospective of the sculptor's work in England. They describe the exhibition as a celebration of the relationship between art and nature. "73 of Bourdelle's works from around the world were gathered together and transported to the Yorkshire Sculpture Park in the north of England. Bourdelle's work was monumental. He was deeply committed to art in public places, but only a small proportion of his enormous body of work was ever commissioned. Bourdelle helped regenerate French sculpture in the 20th century. Rodia Dufay-Bourdelle, the sculptor's daughter, has devoted her life to keeping his memory alive.
C'est-à-dire que mon mari, qui comprenait très bien la sculpture, disait que Rodin était l'aboutissement d'une époque et que Bourdelle était le point de départ d'une nouvelle époque. Je crois qu'il avait raison. Mon père avait appris beaucoup avec son maître Rodin, pour qui il avait une profonde admiration, mais il disait toujours qu'il s'était servi de la science de Rodin dans un but opposé. Parce que Rodin recherchait la sensualité dans l'art, ça faisait partie de son génie, tandis que mon père voulait que chaque objet soit une architecture en soi. Alors il transformait ce qui l'intéressait, c'était l'équilibre entre l'espace, les volumes et les contours des objets.
Rodin said of his friend that he was an artist who must be talked about, a pioneer of the future. In French writer André Suarez's view, Bourdelle knew how best to use space and how to relate every detail to the whole, so as to finally create in reality an object animated by his spirit, in harmony with the earth, the sky, and light. Bourdelle established himself at the turn of the century after working as praticien or assistant to Rodin. He did the roughing out for Rodin as friend and companion. Bourdelle came under Rodin's influence and shared his struggle for the revival of sculpture. But after learning from Rodin, he went his own way and developed his own style. looked very like the composer Beethoven and drew inspiration from him. He completed 76 different studies of the composer, claiming that he could hear sculpture in Beethoven's music. Bourdelle produced a prodigious body of work, much of it for public monuments with larger-than-life figures.
Et il s'approchait du modèle, il prenait des mesures du visage, comme ça, pour voir comment c'était. Et après, il travaillait sans le modèle. Il prenait la sculpture, il la mettait dans le jardin pour la voir à la lumière du jour. Et là, il faisait les simplifications.
His method was to work through a subject from small studies to intermediate size, which then grew into the definitive monument. He made dozens of studies for the huge monument to the Argentinian hero, General Alvear, in Buenos Aires. The base figures of the monument, force, victory, liberty and eloquence, stand 3.5 meters tall, and the monument itself some 18 meters. Much to Bourdelle's disappointment, he was never commissioned by the French state, and but for his family's efforts, his works might never have been gathered together in Paris.
Et alors, il tenait à avoir son musée, et nous n'avons pu l'obtenir que longtemps après sa mort. Et l'État n'a jamais accepté la donation que ma mère et moi avons voulu lui faire, parce que grâce à un mécène, Gabriel Cognac, nous avions pu devenir propriétaires du terrain. Et on l'avait offert à l'État français qui ne l'a jamais accepté. Et c'est finalement la ville de Paris qui a accepté la donation de ma mère, et c'est pour ça que le musée Bourdelle est un musée municipal et non pas national. Nous dépendons de la ville de Paris.
Bourdelle is the greatest artist of our time, said the writer Anatole France. Has there been in the history of arts a creative genius with a more fertile and powerful mind? He has only one drawback that I can see. He carries his conception beyond the limit of possibility. A noble defect.
Orpheus is one of the world's most unusual chamber orchestras. All 26 of its New York-based members rehearse and play without a conductor. Performing with Romanian pianist Radu Lupu at a rare London concert, Artworld heard how they managed not to all speak at once.
Push. The tempo is good, number 4, but the accompaniment is pushing.
This particular one, I think that we can just lay back a little more and let it be a little happier.
The natural response to that would be to play quieter, and I get the feeling that there's no sound in the hall. I can't tell, but...
I think you just have to play.
When we start the presto.
For an outsider, it's often hard to work out who's the leader of the day. Everyone contributes to the interpretive decisions usually made by a conductor, including founder member Julian Pfeiffer.
You can really use your ears and your ideas. I mean, we have 26 pairs of ears spread around the orchestra, and everyone and anyone can speak up and make suggestions, make criticisms. Of course, we have to do it in a somewhat orderly fashion, otherwise the rehearsal process will be disastrous. So I think it's much more fulfilling individually to be able to participate in the creative process instead of just in the process of execution of an idea.
Working with Orpheus is particularly challenging for soloists like Radu Lupu, who usually play with conductors. And yet conductors only became the norm in the mid-1800s.
Well, there are some days where we end up talking more than we play. Yes, there are.
but I would say on the average we play about 2/3 of the time and talk for about 1/3 of the time, maybe less sometimes depending on the work.
But every member of the group appreciates the freedom to have their say.
It's not more fun if you have a great conductor. I mean, I think playing with a great conductor is a wonderful experience, but being able to work things out with your colleagues is fantastic, and having a say in the decision-making process is absolutely wonderful.
It's a very special experience. It's really unique. There's such a sense of participation from every member that it's just a very exciting experience.
How can I describe it? It's both incredibly exhilarating when it works. It's also very frustrating when it doesn't.
Take it away, big guy.
With much of the year spent on tour, audiences all over the world can hear the music of Mozart and Handel without the rule of the baton.
The dangers are that we'll have too many people adding something to the pie, and that interpretation will be watered down and not have much character. So we always have to be on the lookout for that.
Pulsating music, torrid dance steps, hot tropical nights. This is Lambada. Spawned in Brazil and reinvented in Paris, Lambada looks set to become the biggest dance craze since the tango arrived in the 1920s. Lambada nightclubs have sprung up everywhere, and 5 Lambada films and numerous records are due to be released over the next few months.
Let's go, everyone. Let's dance together, everybody.
A French band called Keoma launched Lambada Mania. The lead singer, Loalva Braz, is one of 2 Brazilian singers in the international ensemble. Other members come from Cameroon, Senegal, the Caribbean, and France. The band are based in Paris, Centre for World Beat Music. Did they realize the effect their song Lambada would have?
Espérer un temps de succès? Non, non. Non, non, non.
Personne.
Non, on pensait que ça allait marcher, bon, parce qu'on l'a fait pour ça, mais bon, pas à ce niveau, ni à cette vitesse, ni dans ces proportions-là. Bon, personne ne peut imaginer une telle chose.
Enfin, il y a eu un bon travail fait en équipe, quoi.
Mais on a pensé, quoi, quelques millions de disques vendus, c'était déjà énorme, quoi, mais 12 millions, comme on a vendu dans le monde entier, c'est quand même...
At present, they've retreated to a cottage near Paris to write and rehearse new songs drawn from their diverse cultural backgrounds. A world tour will shortly take them to the United States, the Far East, and South America. Ironically, it took a band from France to launch Lambada. Keoma's song is currently #1 in the Brazilian record charts. Lambada originated in the villages of the Bahia region of northeastern Brazil. In Brazilian, the word literally means a stroke of the whip, after the sound of touching thighs. The dance is a hybrid of salsa, rumba, and the dances of the Caribbean.
Au marché au Brésil, non, même pas au marché, mais dans les petites villes, et que des gens dansaient comme ça, mais pas au marché, parce que c'était la musique underground. C'était la musique marginale, complètement... C'était pas la musique pour le peuple, pas pour le high society, machin. Mais bon...
Maintenant,
c'est fini.
Many of Brazil's top recording artists are doing their own versions of Lambada. The current craze began after 2 French record producers went on a shopping expedition to Latin America. They came back with the publishing rights to 400 songs, including a Bolivian folk melody. The producers invited Keoma to record it, and the song became Lambada and a huge hit in Europe. But in the world of show business, success and litigation often go hand in hand. Keoma's management had to settle with 2 Bolivian songwriters over authorship of the melody. The group are now in dispute with several film companies because Hollywood too jumped on the Lambada bandwagon.
Les films, ils nous ont proposé, même les 2 films qui sont sortis à Hollywood, là, ils ont proposé avec des sommes énormes d'argent pour le faire, mais on a refusé parce que ça convenait pas du tout à la Lambada et à ce qu'on voulait faire, parce que c'était un coup d'argent et on n'a pas envie de faire un coup d'argent. C'est un vrai groupe avec des vraies personnes.
On ne pouvait pas passer de mensonges au public, après passer autant de vérité.
Il n'y a pas que l'argent, quoi, dans le cas. Autrement, on aurait accepté de le faire, le film à Hollywood.
But the films have gone ahead anyway. Colombia's Forbidden Dance cashes in on both Lambada and the tropical rainforest issue. An Indian princess from the Amazon dances Lambada in Los Angeles to draw attention to the plight of her endangered people in the forest. Laura Herring is the film's leading lady.
Esta película se trata de amor, se trata de inocencia, se trata de la vida y de cómo ayudarnos unos a otros y de la naturaleza. Hay que ayudar a nuestra madre, ¿verdad?, que es la naturaleza.
Great sentiments, but the film has opened to unflattering reviews and poor business. 2 other films have also done badly at the box office. There's a chance Lambada could turn out to be the shortest dance craze of the century.
Estarei ao lembrar desse amor.